Hey traders, I wanted to do a deeper dive into a post that I just made on Tradingview here. Talking about this BBK squeeze, and that's where basically I've created something where I can identify where the Bollinger Band comes inside of the Keltner channel. Again, just a little recap. It basically shows where price is beginning to consolidate. In other words, it's stopped making big moves, it's making smaller and smaller bars, and price comes together. And you can see that oftentimes if you just look at price, but this really helps kind of filter it out. And going back and just looking at this daily chart right here, from a straight up probability standpoint, it works pretty well. And again, trading is a numbers game. It's about probability. Nothing's going to be 100%. And so if I just take a look and I go back at each time we had a squeeze such as this and it turned purple, which means that both were squeezing together. Blue, I have it where it's just single, and purple is both. It works out pretty well. Back here we had one and it preceded a pretty decent movement here. This one, we had it where it didn't quite work out either way. Probably was a false breakout there. This one preceded a pretty good move. This one, a pretty decent move. This one. And we're actually coming off of one right here. And if we get over the fact that we're not going to be right 100% of the time, just taking this and say 1-to-1 trades, we would have had, 5 wins and 2 losses, theoretically, if we had just looked at this properly. And so what I really want to kind of start filtering out is, what makes a good one and what's not. I mean, let me go through my thought process of when I'm looking at this and trying to come up with some pattern recognition. Okay. So I've decided that I want to look for when the signal comes in as purple. In other words, both of them are squeezing together. And so if we just look at the difference between these two right here, let's zoom in to one of these right here. Let's just go back to where this one was forming. And one thing that I want to kind of look at and focus on is the fact that they're starting to form a wedge. In other words, it starts a little bit thicker back here and it starts working its way to be a lot thinner. And so it's basically kind of starting to do a little bit of a squeeze within a squeeze, if you will. And so that is really what I am starting to notice is pretty powerful. In other words, that is really what I want to see, where not only am I getting an indicator from the Bollinger Bands and the Keltner squeezes, but I'm also getting a squeeze of a squeeze. In other words, everything is starting to converge, and price really tends to want to break out of these consolidations and convergences. The tighter and tighter it gets, oftentimes the bigger the explosion. And if we look back in the last one beforehand that did not work out quite so well, this one right here, let's take a look before we trigger this breakout. Actually, let's clear out that bar and we'll see. Well, that one was doing a squeeze. Let's see. And this one right here, it went purple. So again, probably would have just been a loss because this one was still fitting the criteria of doing a squeeze as far as we could see it. If we go back and look at this is a lot more pronounced. This one's pretty clear what this is doing. It's doing just a typical, actually, wedge formation that a lot of traders would probably be familiar with if they were looking for a wedge. But the indicator just kind of helps to normalize that out a bit. And it's not just in crypto. And what really made me start looking at this is I wanted a strategy that would work in markets where there was both a long and a short side equally. And that's really what comes into Forex. The thing that I really wanted to do was find something that I could apply to any instrument, because Forex is going to go either way. And here's an example on the daily of the New Zealand Swissy. And it's doing a squeeze on the daily. I actually did catch this one. This one I caught because I was scanning for 4 hour. But this has a little bit of a variance to it. And by that, I'm saying that, while this is not really a clear squeeze, this is more of, I guess, what you would call a flag of price coming up. And again, if we didn't have the signal, we probably could have seen that as well. But why I like to use the indicator is because I can set up in TradingView and alert. In other words, I can go in here and I can say that I want to set up a squeeze alert. Okay. Actually, I haven't added that in yet, but I may do that in another public version. I have one that gives me alerts. So we'll see about that. But in the meantime, if you are using this or you're looking just manually at the Bollinger Band and the Keltner channel, look for this to happen. Another way that you can sort of filter things out is to look for the Bollinger Bandwidth. So BBW in TradingView will help you find it, Bollinger Bandwidth. Make sure it's set to the same statistics as your other indicators. I just happen to like 26, nice magic number. And whenever the Bollinger Bandwidth is starting to decrease, in other words, get to some lows here, that could be a potential sign of this being a good breakout. In other words, what it's measuring with the Bollinger Bandwidth is the overall width. In other words, how far apart they are given a certain amount of time looking back in time. And that would be something you can use. So, food for thought. Hope it helps make you guys money. We'll see you in the next video.